But I appreciate you letting us come into your office, bro. This is awesome. It's a museum. It's a museum, right?
Yeah, it is. Did you pay the cover charge for that?
Well, you got guitarras, you got posters, you got T-shirts. You've kind of kept a lot of stuff, man, right?
You know, I still can't believe, you know, that, well, you know, we set the story. You know, this is what, about our 8th or 9th time that you and I have been together talking about past history of NANO RAMIREZ. And of course, I started at McAllen Civic Center 6 years, Puro Tejano, and then the Villarreal 30 years, and then 10 years at Far Event Center. But I've continued still doing events every year. Like this year, 2024, I've got 20 shows scheduled for the end of the year. So I'm still active. But the thing I can't get over, I'm still at awe, is that how did I keep all the memorabilia, posters, pictures, tickets, flyers of almost every show that happened at the Villarreal. And it enabled me to put this 300-page book together.
I know. It's like, I remember like Kiss. Those guys got like the article or the ad that they put in a magazine, in a newspaper magazine in New York, asking for a guitar player that Ace Frehley answered. I mean, to have the mentality to like, let's hold on to everything. So if this goes as far as it goes, because many people, when they start something, they don't think 20 years later, right? And for you to have thought that way back then.
Well, you know, back when it started, there was only like 2 radio stations, 2, 3, 4 radio stations I would use. There was KGBT and KRT for Tejano, or Group, or Norteño, and there was only a country station, KELT,
KSOX, KLT, yeah.
And then there was KRIO, KRIO. So, and I had my desk, I remember, you know, I had a box next to my, and I would advertise only a newspaper, like at the Monitor and radio stations, and I would do my own posters and flyers. So after every concert, I just made the habit of every single event, just put that particular event, put it in that box. And before you knew it, you know, I had the box after 30 years.
Yeah.
Stuck with, just look on the side, look at all the tickets.
I know, man.
Tickets that I have,
just walking through here, I could be here for hours just looking at everything.
You know, the pictures, and yeah, I was lucky that I was conscious enough to have saved all this memorabilia that I'm able to share with a lot of people. The 30 years that Villarreal existed, at all the types of events that I had, it's got to be a big, huge percentage of people that lived in the valley in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that experienced La Villarreal.
Yeah.
I mean, I get stopped almost daily or frequent, you know, when I'm at the, when they recognize me in the restaurants and whatever, and they'll, hey, La Villarreal, I remember this concert, they'll start telling me their experiences.
Ahí conocí la baby doll que me casé, tenemos chavalos. And...
I had repair people for the air conditioning or plumbing. They come over and say, yeah, I got married to La Villarreal, and this just happened recently. You know, this couple, we got married to La Villarreal. I looked in the book, and sure enough, his wedding date was posted on the book.
Is the book's available like online right now? Can people get it?
No, online. They have to. You know, there's an article came out in the Monitor about a month ago. My profile. I don't know if you got to see it, but anyway, it was actually featuring the book, and the only way to get the book, unfortunately, is I can't get it through Amazon. You have to get it through me, and the only way to get it to me is by emailing me, and they'll send me their information, and tell them I'll make plans to meet them somewhere, or they have the opportunity come and pick it up here, and I'll sign the book, and they get to see the museum.
Yeah,
and it's of course the cost of it is a donation for JR and Friends Fight Against MS.
Yeah, your son.
Matter of fact, I just happen to have the book right here in front of me.
Míralo.
I was getting ready to send this.
I think you can show it to which camera? Over here? You can show it to that camera right here. And it's called La Villarreal. You can see it's very thick, and it's got a lot. Look, it's incredible, man. I mean, Pantera. There you are, young, looking like Randy Macho Man Savage. 3 Doors Down. 2001, what a year. Legendary Entertainment. I mean, what an incredible history. I mean, this book has to be in every household in the Rio Grande Valley
You know,
because it's iconic, man.
I've got here a list of about 20 more people I got to get the book to.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I probably have a lot of unauthorized pictures in this book. That's
Well,
why
I won't
can't
tell
sell
anybody
it.
if you don't.
I can't sell it to Amazon, so
Yeah.
I did it myself personally. You know, I sat here in this computer for 7 years, and I put this book together. So I feel proud of myself of what I did, and
good.
I'm still at awe every time I look at the book and see all the artists that played the Villarreal. There will never ever be another Villarreal. Not only I don't think there was ever one ever in the anywhere in the United States, and it'll never be duplicated.
I don't think so either. You know. Hey, tell me about your jefito, you know, Arnaldo Ramirez Sr.,
Mr. Falcon.
Mr. Falcon. What kind of a man was he, man?
Man,
Was he strict with you? Was he really cool? Or I mean, I never got to meet him in person. I got to see him on the show Fanfarria Falcon late Sunday nights, you know, when I was a kid and I was staying up late. Sunday mornings.
10 o'clock.
I remember seeing it a couple of times at night. I don't know why, but I was a kid in the 70s. They might have replayed it at night. I don't know, but they would play it on Sunday. So it was one of the Sunday morning programs from Fanfarria Falcon, which is it was something like Aquí Rogelio.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what kind of how was your dad when you were growing up and stuff?
He was one of those persons that he would walk into a restaurant and all heads would turn to look at him. You know, he was so distinguished, and the way he educated himself. When he was speaking in Spanish, he thought he was from Mexico. When he spoke in English, he thought he was a gringo or, you know, Americanized. He had one of those memories, photogenic memories, was unbelievable. His high school friends used to tell me that while they were studying before an exam, my father was out hustling pool. He would be the last ones to go into a class. And he was the first one to leave after an exam, and he would be the only one with the highest grades.
Wow,
that's how smart
he was. A special man.
Yeah, no, he was, and he was. Oh man,
what would they say about him today? Would he be, you know, a savant or like? You know, because nowadays they have everything for everybody. You know, like somebody that's a little smarter than everybody else or that has a little more capability. But your dad was definitely ahead of his time for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, he could, besides creating something where we wound up, he opened up this record label in Mission, Texas in 1948 and take it all the way where we had distribution all over Central South America, all over the United States. We had offices in LA, Chicago, San Antonio, Mexico City. And he took La Música Norteña, like, and the ambassadors for that was a Los Alegres Terán.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 40s and 50s, La Música de Acordeón was actually limited between Monterrey and San Antonio. That's it. So Falcon Records with Los Alegres Terán broke all the barriers. La Música Norteña went all over nationally and internationally. And that's where other artists, especially from the Valley, started their legendary careers, like Pedro Ayala, Freddie Gomez, Gilberto Perez, Rubén Vela, Carlos y José. So a lot of legendary Tejano bands that started from Falcon Records of what he created. Eventually, you know, he was the first. Falcon Records was the very first record company in the world to have its own royalty department. Artist recordings, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's back in the day, like RCA in Colombia, they would have to pay or get songs from the publishing companies out of New York or Mexico City. My father got an invoice one time from a composer that had signed a song to a publishing company in New York, and he got the bill, you know, for the song. How many songs have you sold? So you owe me this percentage of royalties, because he had signed over the royalties to a royalty company. My father started thinking, why should I pay somebody out of New York? I can create my own company, and it became an in-house publishing company. It was Rams Music for Ramirez. And now I think every major record label, they all have their own publishing companies.
Wow.
But he was the very first one ever.
What's
And
what's the most memorable moment of your dad? One of those memories that just takes you back to growing up and him being your dad, you know.
his physique, man, he was always in shape. You know, he was the first Mexican American to play in 1932 with Pan American Bronx. Because
Wow.
back in the 30s, you know, and first of all, a Mexican to be allowed or to actually attend a college, and the only college that was at the time here in the Valley was Pan American Junior College. And I hadn't realized how athletic he was. That there was a gringo who was taller than him, but he was the starting center for the team, for the Bronco team. 1932. I got a picture. You'll see it on the way out. And so he was always bicycling, and he actually got me. He had some weights from Joe Waiter,
Yeah.
Waiter. You know,
That's the old school dude,
the old
man.
school man.
That
You're talking
started it
about
all,
back in the
bodybuilding,
50s.
yeah.
Yeah, when I was growing up, I would see my father, you know, do his weights,
Wow,
bench
so he was
presses,
in the
and
physical.
biceps,
Yeah.
and of course his public speaking was unbelievable. Public speaking in both languages. That eventually, you know, he was the mayor of Mission for a few years. He was in the commission there for 12 years. Mayor, I think, for 8 years. He was appointed by 3 governors in the state of Texas to be their goodwill ambassador as an interpreter to Mexico. So everything he handled or did or tried, you know, was a success.
What did he tell you when you decided to go into the promotion business? And
Well, he was actually already promoting. While I was in the Navy, he started doing some dances at the McAllen Civic Center.
Mhm.
Our own artists, Falcon Record artists, every 3 or 4 months to showcase, you know, our artists. And when I came back from the Navy and I got influence to start bringing in Tejano bands that were not being booked by, at that time, the legendary, and not at that point, it was probably considered him the biggest promoter in the United States, was Paulino Bernal. Paulino Bernal, he was a superstar musician with one of the greatest bands at that era, El Conjunto Bernal. He had a record label, he had a TV station. And here I come, a 25-year-old kid, to go against him on a Tuesday night. Dances back then eran los bailes grandes on Mondays. And the only reason there were bailes on Mondays because Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, the Tejano bands would play on the weekends. So there was not any dates available for those bands to play the Valley. So started playing like in Corpus, Laredo, and the Valley, made into los bailes grandes on Mondays. And here I come on a Tuesday. But you got to remember, back in the day, in the early 70s, there were no nightclubs. The only means of entertainment was actually the movies. And for the Hispanic, El Baile Grande, it was big-time entertainment to go listen or dance to a radio, somebody being played on the radio, like Lil Joe, Sunday and Sunliners, Len Breed. So I came in as not a dare, because there were some bands that were not part of the syndicate that controlled the Tejano bands. There was the Zuniga Brothers in Chicago. There was Johnny Gonzalez that owned Zarape Records in Dallas. There was Domingo Peña in Corpus, Raúl Ruiz in San Antonio, Huicho Garcia in Laredo, and then as California, they controlled all those Tejano bands and would dictate to them how much they were going to get paid. So some of the bands didn't want to go into that. It's just what, you know, they didn't want to take what they were being dictated or offered. And starting with Ruben Ramos, the Mexican Revolution, Freddie Martinez, the Royal Jesters. So there were bands out there that they were asking for, but they weren't playing the Villarreal. The McAllen Civic Center, or coming down to the Valley or the Valle Grande. So I said, you know what? So I'm going to, you know, just fresh out the Navy. I'm young, energetic. Says, you know what? So I'm going to give it a try. And sure enough, my first dance was with, can you believe, Ruben Ramos, Mexican Revolution, 1971, Antonio La Rosa.
Wow.
And Paulino and I lasted a year and a half competing against each other Monday and Tuesday. After a year and a half, he went his way and became an evangelist, Christian. Winded up with I don't know how many airplanes, radio stations. So he was real successful.
Yep.
That he went that route, and of course for the rest, I was basically the only person.
It was your baby.
It was me. Stayed, and then I always had in the back of my mind about building my own venue, which of course became a dream in 1978 when La Villarreal opened its doors. And
what was the first show at La Villarreal? It was 78, right?
It was December 3rd, 1977 with Country Rollin', the Country Rollin' Band.
Wow. Yeah, man. A lot of people, I like to turn them on to our audience all over the nation because, Country Rollin' was a very unique musician and artist who fused rancheras with country. And boy, it was huge back then, man.
He recorded for a record label under our international label, ARV, for Arnaldo Ramirez label. And of course, when we started calling him Country Daddy, Kicker Daddy, I named him the King of Tejano Country. And if you look at some of the albums in the back, it says the King of Tejano Country, Country Rolling, which I named him. I feel proud that was how I gave him that
the moniker,
that title.
Nickname.
Well, Country Rollin' had the record. He played 4 times at the Villarreal. I had right after Urban Cowboy, the movie. Remember the movie?
Yeah, that was
John
huge.
Travolta. Well, I started on Thursday nights, Urban Cowboy Night at La Villarreal, with local country
Steve and
bands.
his barroom buddies.
Barroom buddies,
Bo
Garza,
Garza.
Texas Country Band, talking about Louis Gomez.
Yeah.
Janie C. And the Cactus Band. And so I had Country Rollin' one Thursday. And then he was booked Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for either church or a school or whatever fundraisers. And he sold out all 4 dates. Can you imagine?
In La Villarreal, you could fit how many? 2,500 people?
Well, it could fit probably more than that. 25 was the average. But he averaged 1,500 people, just so happens. Every night, every single night, right?
Yeah.
But you're talking about back in the 80s. And the bands at that time, the Sonny and the Signliners, Lil Joe, Freddie Martinez, they would take $1,500 when they would play. That was big bucks. Of course, the cover charge was like $5. Country Rollin' was charging $3,000 back then. And can you imagine he played 4 nights? He made $12,000 in 4 nights without moving his equipment.
No, but that's big money, man. Back then. 78 and 79.
And of course, dancing to the Cotton Eye Joe. He was something else.
He was a star. Was that music was just pretty much regional to our area, right? Or was it successful up in Dallas and Houston in that area too? Do you know?
For a couple of years when we released the album Country Rollin', we would when Roberto Pulido was a king of Tejano that era in the 80s and 90s, we would release en Los Alegres Terán at that time too. Anything you released on Los Alegres Terán, if you would sell initially like 20,000 orders on the first week of a new release, that was big time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that was just the initial order. So here in the initial orders back when the Country Rollin' came out, we had 20,000 Alegres, 20,000 for Roberto Pulido, 20,000 for, believe it or not, Wally Gonzalez.
The Big Bird song or the Low Rider song? Yeah.
And for Country Rollin'.
Wow.
Yeah. Country Rollin' sell out in California, Arizona, New Mexico.
Wow.
Illinois.
I always thought, that it was just basically sort of something that was ours here and that's it. But no, it was actually working everywhere else. And,
yeah.
Wow, man, that's awesome. When did you start? When was the first time you booked Mazz there at the Villarreal?
I got to give credit to legendary DJ Raúl Hernández from KWW.
Que en paz descanse, Raúl.
And he befriended a group out of Brownsville, it was a Grupo Mazz. And he said, "Nano, I got this band, great band, and I want you to book them for, one of your Tejano shows." Okay, but I didn't know where to feed them with what kind of music, because Grupo Mazz originally, the Tejano, the dancing, I don't know, it was
kind of internationally rock and rollish, right?
So I put him to open up for Rigo Tobar. of all things, not with that Tejano band.
Uh-huh.
And I was trying to find the newspaper ad. I think I had it. I wanted to put on the book. I had Rigo Tovar, special guest, Grupo Mazz, and I spelled it M-A-S. Mazz instead of M-A-Z-Z.
Uh-huh.
Grupo Mazz. That's what, I had just heard Mazz, Mazz. Raul or the band never told me it's Mazz, M-A-Z-Z. That's,
Sí.
of course, I learned after that first gig they played. They said, no, just misspell our group name, man.
¿Y quién era el que te dijo, Jimmy or
Jimmy.
Joe? Jimmy? Jimmy was the one pretty much coordinated all, or what?
Yeah, I basically did the advancing with Jimmy.
And how did it go for them at their first show with Rigo Tovar at La Villa Real?
It was good. We got very good response.
See?
And of course, at that time, radio kind of picked them up, KWW, and little by little, the Grupo Mazz.
That must have been about early 80s, no? 83, 82,
Yes.
something like that. And then you had bands like Romance.
Romance,
también.
mi ahijado, Mario. My wife and I were
Mario, el
padrinos in the
cantante
wedding.
de Romance.
Yeah, Mario.
You
Mario
baptized
Montes.
him or what? Ahijado, what do you mean?
My wife and I were padrinos for his first wedding.
Oh, okay. ¿Que lo bautizaron o qué? Mario.
No, first wedding.
Yeah.
Padrinos de
I just
la
had him
boda,
on the
de boda.
show the other day, man. And boy, man, I mean, those albums that they recorded with Oscar, I mean, that group was just the chemistry they had was absolutely amazing. That album, Dime si soy un tonto enamorado de ti, was great.
And one of the original band singers of Romance is Roberto Pulido.
Sí.
Yeah, and then Roberto Pulido sprayed me Roberto Pulido's clásicos, and that's where Mario came in.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Roberto, and he was with Los Laytons when he was 15 in the
Sí,
65, and then he joined Los Casinos, and then he started Roberto
Casinos.
Pulido Los Clásicos, and Mario was singing with Roberto.
I was Mario. I got it wrong. That's
Yeah.
right. Mario was the one that was singing with Roberto.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he started.
And then he went on his own. Yeah.
Stand corrected there.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. So yeah, no, I'm learning all this from interviewing the guys, But that's why I like to do this, man. I just I have this thing that I love history and especially music history and stuff like that. La Mafia, they also came in. Did they play the Villarreal before Mazz or after?
Well, I had Pulido. Roberto was playing La Villarreal, and you remember his father. His father was the front of Roberto's band, Jose Pulido. Did you ever meet him?
I never got to meet him. I
I'll
probably
show you a picture.
did, pero I don't quite
yeah, no,
remember him.
He was the man behind Roberto Pulido, his father Jose. And we were at the office at La Villarreal. He and I and Roberto, it was a sold-out show. And here comes a taxi dropping off a representative for a new group, and it's Henry Gonzalez, who happens to be Oscar and Leonard's brother, promoting a new band called La Mafia. So Jose Pulido and I are sitting there in the office in La Villarreal, and he shows us the 45s, and that they wanted to see they could play at the Villarreal. And he says, "Look, guys," I told him, "Look, the first thing," he wanted our opinions. We couldn't hear the record because I didn't have a record player there in the office. But he said, "Look," and he wanted our opinions to see what. He said, "Well, the first thing you got to do," he says, "I think you better change the name. I don't think La Mafia is going to work." What do I know, right?
Yeah.
And Jose Pulido says, "Yeah, hey, Henry, that name just doesn't go.
Being conservative.
La Mafia, But what are you guys thinking, calling it La Mafia?" And then I said, "You know what? But let me see what happens. Give me your number, name it all." And then, we had offices, like I said earlier, in San Antonio, Falcon Records. So I was going to San Antonio like maybe once every 6 weeks for a whole week to the office and go visit the radio stations and do PR and whatever. And I heard La Mafia was playing at a ballroom called Randy's Ballroom. And I had heard, the La Mafia's show.
There was
and
a buzz
and,
going on.
The buzz. He said, "Hey, well, I'm here. I'm going to go check him out." So I went up, met up with Henry, and, of course, standing in the back when La Mafia got introduced. And all of a sudden, Oscar comes out and he gets a mic and he starts trembling and it falls on the floor and everybody was applauding, man, thinking it was part of the show. He was being electrocuted.
Oh, no.
Some of the wires got crushed or something. And I can't remember whether it got to the hospital or, but that was my first experience with La Mafia. Then was there, "Okay, guys, I'll book you." And they were the first ones to also have a bus, traveling bus, Tejano bus, right?
Órale.
So I booked them like for 6-7 weeks later. And there were no cell phones either, right? And back in the day, and I get a call, and La Mafia's not there, and they're getting late, and the show starts. I had to get the headliner to start because La Mafia never showed up. Finally get a call from my payphone, and it's Henry. Their bus had broke down in Alice.
Oh, no. What a headache, man.
Yeah,
and
man.
it's their first
the
shot.
First impression, the first
Damn.
shot.
And who were they opening up for? Who was the headliner?
I can't remember who it was.
No era Mazz.
No era Mazz.
Those guys, man, they couldn't get along back then, no?
I take credit. I was the only promoter that was able to get them together in the showdown at La Villarreal. Joe and Jimmy.
Did you have any issues, any problems?
No,
or
absolutely.
Anybody
We worked it
misbehaved?
out. Who was going to start? We flipped, and what was going to happen, and then it was a successful.
So you all flipped to
see who was going to start.
And who got the flip?
Can't remember, man. The other thing I do remember is that it was so successful that they got booked in Laredo. And Laredo, they got into a discussion, and they got pushing shoves, and the words were exchanged. And I think some of the roadies there got in. So, and I had already scheduled the second. As a matter of fact, I got a poster in the very back. It says the second showdown. Of course, it never happened.
It never happened. And it was literally a showdown before the showdown.
Yeah.
Wow. What about the King of the Brown Sound, Little Joe, man? I mean, when was the first time you booked him? Because he was hiding this. And I remember the late 70s, early 80s, the Live for Schlitz. And whenever you booked him, you had to have Schlitz around, right? Or
that was the only beer. I mean, 90% of the beer sales. Of course, back in the 60s, they had the concessions, but it was actually, I can almost say 100% of beer sales were Schlitz.
Yeah.
When up and up La Villarreal, the first 10, 15 years, 90% was Schlitz.
It was huge, man.
Yeah, that was it. So, Little Joe got to book it when Little Joe was that year.
That was in the early 70s?
Yeah, 71.
So, Little Joe y los Latiners, that was the early 70s,
Early
mid-70s?
70s, yes.
Y todavía no estaba Johnny, Rocky.
Sí, Johnny and Rocky was part of the group.
Because then they turned into La Familia. Why did that happen? Do you know?
I don't know exactly why they changed it over to La Familia. I think their Tejano became a little bit more progressive. Or I know it was more political.
What was the difference between like Latiners and the La Música era lo mismo, ¿verdad?
Same band.
Just decided to change the brand.
And then eventually La Familia, the band, left Little Joe. They became Tortilla Factory with their singers El Coyote y El Charro Negro.
Sí.
And they recorded their first album with Falcon Records.
Sí.
Yeah, we were pretty good.
I remember I had an album, Los Tejanos, with Charro Negro también. So, and it was a big band full of horns and everything. That kind of like
Charro Negro. If they don't know Charro Negro was
Bobby Butler.
Bobby Butler, yeah, black guys would dress in mariachi.
And sing in Spanish.
Charro Negro, yeah.
What did you all see? What did you all think when you saw that? When you found out about it?
Because he was part of the show of Tortilla Factory. You know? We thought it was fabulous. It was a good gimmick. And not only good, the guy could sing and he could perform. They were entertainers.
People need to look him up and check out his music. He had an amazing voice.
Yeah. El Coyote, the lead singer of the band, también. Coyote was an amazing singer.
Yeah.
Tortilla Factory.
Little Joe y La Familia, when you would bring Rocky and
all the three brothers, man, the voices.
Los bailes esos, no, bro?
Yeah, man. It's probably one of the best three voices. Era cuando salieron Las Nubes. Oh, man.
Que culpa tengo. High energy music. Horn section. And then Joe got out of the horns. Ya no tuvo horns. He started changing it up with keyboards and stuff, right?
Joe? No, Joe still, up to this day, he's got two trumpets.
Oh, yeah?
He's never left the horn section.
I remember there was a time when he had Borrachera and a lot of those, I think, Mi Nena. He was doing a lot of, he kind of shrunk the band a little bit.
Him and Ruben, well, yeah, from trombones and saxophones, the big bands like Latin Breed. Yeah. He went from a Latin Breed to basically now just two trumpets. And Ruben Ramos still has a big band sound. I don't think, besides Latin Breed and Ruben Ramos, Lil Joe, the only ones still with horns of the old Tejano.
Did you ever book David Lee Garza with RAMIREZ down here at La Villarreal?
Oh, yeah, sure. Come on. I booked David Lee Garza with all the legendary singers that came out of David Lee when with Emilio, of course, Ram. There's how many more were
Emilio
there?
Ram y también they
Marcos
had Oscar G,
Orozco.
Marcos Orozco.
Yeah.
He's had quite a
They
few
all
singers.
played.
Yeah. Jay Pérez.
Jay Pérez.
Cuando estaba
Yeah.
con Jay Pérez es cuando pegó grande a
Yeah.
madre.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jay Pérez estaba con él, ¿verdad? They had the 1392, 13th album released in 92. That album was huge for those guys. Es cuando comenzaron a llenar el Villarreal, ¿verdad? Would they ever pack it in the early years?
Well, actually, they started opening up for Pulido.
Okay.
Pulido would take them on the road. They became very good friends.
Y el papá de Pulido y el papá de David Lee,
David
those
Lee
are the
were
guys
all
running the
compadres.
shows, right?
Yeah. The two fathers, man, they were
Wow.
both fantastic front men, or actually that took care of the band, the two fathers.
Sí. And then Emilio went solo, man.
Well, just like Ram, just like Jay, just like Marcos Sullivan went solo.
Yeah. But Emilio was probably the one David Lee Garza singer that like
Made
really
Bigger.
skyrocketed, right?
Yeah. Him and Selena were basically equivalent on concert sales,
Sí.
attendance, and record sales.
You know, it's interesting because like when Emilio would play La Villarreal sold out, and then he'd play in Brownsville, and it'd be, you know, half of that. What's the difference between Brownsville and McAllen that what you did over here didn't normally work over there?
McAllen was the entertainment capital of the valley.
Okay.
People from Harlingen, Brownsville come to McAllen metropolitan area. They're not going to go to Brownsville, not even Harlingen. McAllen's always been considered,
The hub.
the hub of the restaurants, the malls.
The Metroplex.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
As a matter of fact, on the book, I've got here La Villa Real, McAllen, Texas, the entertainment capital of South Texas.
it is. You made it that.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the city of McAllen, man. We see when I'm gone, what's going to happen to all the memorabilia?
That's what I'm thinking. I was
gotta
going to
be
ask you
displayed,
that,
you know?
man. Because JR, your son, I don't know, he's probably going to end up with it all, right? Or
Yeah.
is he going to,
Well, I want to duplicate everything I got here.
Okay.
Like I've got some ideas. So I've been talking to a couple of city officials. One of them, Yahaira Flores,
okay.
who was my intern for 2 years, a 19-year-old at La Villa Real. She's La Mera Mera at the McAllen Convention Center Performing Arts. She mentioned one time there's a room, when you go into the McAllen Performing Arts, it's a room that they use as a banquet and so mostly always empty. She said, it's an idea. Maybe that's where the Villa Real museum should be at. So, hey,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
You know, there's been a lot of promoters, they come and go, and you've been consistent. Was there ever a band that, gave you a big headache, like the biggest headache? ¿Qué band era la que te puso la vida más pesada que de todos, Nano?
Any kind of bands?
Yeah, any kind of
rock
band.
or whatever.
I mean, English, Spanish.
Well, it never happened, but there was a band that was making our life miserable. It didn't happen in La Villa Real. It was a fire event center. What's the name of the band, Jerry? I couldn't. There was the barbecue smell and no meat. Couldn't sell pepperoni.
Morrissey.
Oh, Morrissey.
I didn't
my
even know
God.
Morrissey played down
I
here.
didn't play. We had him scheduled, and then we were going to reschedule him again because he got sick or something. It never happened, but his writer stuff that if he came into the venue and could smell smoke barbecue, it was forbidden. I had to make certain to get him into the building without him smelling the barbecue. There was Rudy's barbecue right across the street, right? And we were no meats of any kind to be sold at the concessions. Like if we sold pizza, no pepperoni pizza. And stuff on his rider, ridiculous.
Le hubieras dado una horquilla para la nariz. No es que
Sí,
entrara
¿verdad?
con la horquilla.
But
Clothespin on his nose, man.
the only one, really, I never had any problems. The only one I did have, when they asked me, did you ever meet an asshole in your 50 years in the industry? Yeah, there was one. Larry Gatlin from the Gatlin Brothers.
El country guy.
Yeah, he was an arrogant asshole. Of course, I think he changed because the first time I had him, they had a big hit, the three brothers. So it happens that Rudy, one of his brothers, is married to a Hispanic girl from McAllen by the last name of Guerra. So I didn't know whether his arrogance or whatever had to do. I felt like he was anti-Mexican, racist, right?
Yeah.
But the place was packed. The Villarreal, they had the hit song, All the Gold in California.
Yeah.
And, I would go, I would greet all my artists. I've become personal friends with hundreds of artists that ever performed. And up to this date, even with Jerry Lee Lewis of all people, they're all humble and, they're
approachable.
all nice and they're approachable and they'll sign your autographs. Here I went to Larry and he kind of completely ignored me, turned his back on me while I was talking to him, completely ignored me. So I felt kind of insulted right there, right?
See.
And then they went and performed. At that time, some of those country shows, I had the Las Vegas style seating, and then if you wanted to dance, there was dancing in the very back.
Mm-hmm.
So they started out the first song, and people stood up and applauding. They were kind of fast songs. The second song, third, so the fourth song was a ballad. So everybody sat down and he started singing. There's probably about maybe 20 couples 200 feet away dancing.
Mm-hmm.
He stops and tells the crowd, "We are the greatest singers in the world, and you all paid to come listen to us sing. You didn't come here to dance. So you all make up your mind. Are you going to dance or listen to us? And when you all decide," they said, "we'll come back on stage." They walked off stage.
Damn.
And then they came back, performed. It wasn't the same. The atmosphere
was done.
The energy, all it was done.
Agüitaron todo el pedo, G.
Yeah, and then I went afterwards to see, go talk to the man. And again, he gave me, didn't give me the time of day.
Yeah.
So he's my number, in my 43 years of doing this, he's my number one. Now, somebody else booked him for some kind of an event at La Villa Real, and he came back years later. And I could see the difference. He had become more.
He must have just been having a shitty day, maybe. Yeah, I mean, but he doesn't have to take it out on people. But sometimes,
especially the guy's going to pay him.
I know, right?
Should be kissing my ass,
So with promoting, you have your wins and you have your losses. And what was the worst loss you ever had in a show, man?
Oh, there's a lot of them.
But like the one that was like, I mean, it really hurt.
Really a disaster. Yeah. You know what? I think I've been lucky that there has to be one, but I try to not think about
the negative.
Think about it, but
I'm sorry to bring it up, man. It's just interesting to me because that happens.
It's a good question.
It's part of life.
I got to think about it, man. It's got to be. I know there's one or two or three or four or five that were bad turnouts that I was expecting so many people. Well, there's a couple of them that I was shocked that we didn't sell out, and I wound up losing money. I had Randy Travis when he just came out real strong
with the Amen song, Forever and Ever, Amen.
Forever and Ever, and I booked 2 dates back to back, thinking because with other country acts like George Strait, what I would book, they were huge. I booked 2 dates back to back. So Randy Travis, I was shocked that I barely was able to sell at least 75% of the first show. So I had to cancel my second show.
Yeah.
So that was one.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Billy Ray Cyrus, another one too. Yeah. That one too. I mean, Billy with, what's the Achy Breaky Heart. I mean, it was huge. So I said, man, I might wind up, I'm going to buy 3 dates on this guy back to back. So I just wound up with 2 dates.
Yeah.
And the same thing as Randy Travis, man. I had to cancel one. But the guy was a nice guy. That's one thing different.
What do you think was what happened with them?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because Achy Breaky Heart, everybody was dancing. It was like Macarena, man,
And how many Mexican bands were playing it in Spanish also recorded it. And
there's even a Spanish version that they do, that they dance.
There are a few.
But if you bring the Spanish band that does the Spanish version, you'll fill it up 3 days, man.
Probably.
Around here nowadays, right? But so Billy Ray Cyrus, Randy Travis. What did Randy Travis do you got?
Well, I brought back Billy Ray Cyrus to a Pan American event, Hispanic Days or whatever. And it was huge. Of course, it's free. But you know why it was huge? There were thousands of people there. because he was the father of Hannah Montana at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So he was more famous as
For his
Hannah
daughter.
Montana's father. As the father of Hannah Montana.
Book
They've
him
been
3 nights
retired.
again. What about the biggest payday, man? What was like the biggest, the one where you said, damn, this was the big one right here, man?
There's been 2. One of them was a Creed concert in Mercedes.
Orale, 16,000 people there,
Paid.
right?
I had thought about 17,000 paid. And it's still, up to this date, probably the biggest rock attendance show in the history of the Rio Grande Valley.
You had some extra time for that one because it got canceled the first time. Why did it get canceled or postponed?
There we go, rescheduled.
Yeah, rescheduled.
That's a
It
bad
didn't
word.
cancel. Yeah, it's rescheduled. It was postponed.
You know, we were set up, and every day leading up to that day, a beautiful day, a hot day, and we were going to make a killing with those many people. We had all the concessions. Can you imagine how much beer does? And what happens? A cold front comes in, and it starts raining.
But that was the day that the show happened.
No.
Right? Oh, no. Okay.
That was the original date.
Okay.
So there's no way it was going to happen. And can you imagine there was people who already ready to come in? The highway, the expressway, highway patrol, the lines were all the way up to Dana.
In Mercedes.
Further,
But it's the
probably all the
stock
way to
show
West
triple, no?
And but you're talking about 16,000 people plus the other comps and giveaways and promos, probably 17,000 people with the concessionaires and people, the workers, right? So we decided right then and there, we called up P104 and announced, rescheduled the date for 6 weeks later. The day after that show, the sun came out, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for the next 6 weeks,
Beautiful.
beautiful weather.
And
then deja vu.
yeah, dude, I was there. I lived in Mercedes. I walked to the concert. I took my kids, we walked to the concert, and man, the weather was terrible, but it was packed, crazy.
It was packed. And, I had Tim Smith, I think, on the phone because we had the weather gauge for the, insurance or the weather, whatever, and calling Tim, hey, how's the weather? How's it looking? He said, well, there is a rain scheduled, but it's not till about 9:30 or 10.
Right when they're going to go on.
So we told the band Creed, hey, let forget about the opening acts. Let's go on right now. The door's open. Let's kick it out right away. No, let the other band play. Okay, and it was dark. It was cold, but it wasn't raining. So the first band played. Said, hey, let's cut them off. No 30 minutes, man. Let's get in 20 minutes. We cut them off. Then the second band went on, got them in 30 minutes. They were supposed to play each an hour. And I said, okay. They finished. As soon as the last support band finished, the sprinkle starts getting to the stage, and the wind started picking up.
Yeah.
My partner, Denny Eden, and I, is from Dallas. We were in the office, and we said, we are screwed. We're going to lose, all the refunds and the monies. We're going to go broke with this show, right? Because that's a lot of money we had invested.
The pressure and the stress going on before.
We were going crazy there in the dressing room. We didn't know what to do. And without us being there to, supervise what's going on stage, all of a sudden we hear, ladies and gentlemen, Creed. Oh, my God. Oh, they're going to go on stage. And the music started. It says, well, I hope they play at least 5 songs. If we play 5 songs, we're covered.
Good, yeah.
We're covered, right? And the rain was coming and hitting them, in the front.
Yeah.
They were getting hit with it. And, thinking about being electrocuted like Oscar de la Mafia, but there was no rain back then, right?
Yeah.
And they played for about 45 minutes. Then they took a break, I guess, to dry up and came back, and they played another 40. They played for 2 hours on that rain. So
the singer had a coat with a hoodie on, tied up, and he wasn't dressed like they'd like to dress, but
So that was one of the biggest. We could have had a bigger paid date if the weather would have been hot with the concessions. Yeah. We had all the concessions. There were hours.
It was too cold to be drinking beer, and imagine the beer sales. Wow,
oh man,
would have been out of this world.
And then the other biggie was I had Oscar de la Hoya and Julio Cesar Chavez on Closed Circuit. For 20 years, I had the exclusive rights of all the closed circuit fights. There was no pay-per-view.
Yeah.
If you were going to see a championship fight, it was closed circuit, and it's either me at the Via Real, or if I had sometimes I would sell them off to a couple of bars there at the end for 20
A couple
years.
of big screens.
Yeah.
And the fight
So
would be
here I went ahead and the Via Real, so happens it was booked that night for that fight. So I booked Greg's Ballroom, and the Fire Event Center was not the Fire Event Center, it was a Bingo Grande, but I converted into I could hold 2,000 people and show the fight.
See.
So I had the Fire Event Center, Greg's Ballroom. I had 2 bars in one in Rio Grande City, one in Roma. I had the Roadhouse Ballroom in Harlingen. Remember the Roadhouse?
Yeah, yeah.
And I had
San Benito.
San Benito.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had the Convention Center at the Island, and I had La Plaza de Toros and Reynosa.
Wow.
And all of them were sold out.
That was quadruple dipping.
Yeah, but the thing is,
dipping,
the
wow.
unfortunate is that, I had to partner 50-50 because somebody had to come up with the big bucks.
The capital.
And at that time, Joe Brent, people were really involved in boxing. Ruben Chavana, you remember Ruben Chavana?
I remember Ruben Chavana.
Used to call him Mr.
The Joe Brand.
The Joe Brand, Mr. Boxing
En
Man.
paz descanse.
Because he was
también.
big time.
Siempre con su sombrerito y todo. Yeah, real cool.
Well, see, they were going to basically be my partners, but then they also got my friend Ramon Garcia, the attorney, to because a lot of money, but between Ramon Garcia and they're the ones who put up the deposit. So by the time I split 50-50, and then I still had all the expenses I had to pay on satellites and technicians.
The rights.
And, it was still one of the biggest paydays ever.
Yeah, and you killed it in like 5 different areas, man. It was really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to, I actually enjoyed going to those closed circuit boxing events, getting a table with their friends, drinking and watching the fight. Everybody there at the Villarreal. Compared to like pay-per-view at home by yourself, I mean, it's just nothing like going to a salon, like if you're going to a boxing event.
And that time I had Carlos Guzman. I had to have persons that I trusted to be at the box office. Because back then it's cash at the door.
Sí.
There was no pre-sale tickets. There was no ticket master. So like JR took care of the island, and I had Carlos Guzman at Greg's Ballroom. And I had technicians, but I was short one technician. I had one at Harlingen. I said, I'll keep one in here in FAR, and he'll take care of FAR in Greg's Ballroom. I had another one in Rio Grande City. And Carlos calls me up, panicky. He says, there's no signal. The fight's about to start. There's no signal. And he started, Carlos, to panic this whole time. And I told Paz Descanse, Don Weber, he was my tech guy, my satellite guy. And he was there in the fire. Hey, go out there, see what's going on. So he rushed out there. And it was only a switch that somebody had.
Le pegaron.
That's it, just a switch up. Turn on. And
the
thing is, the preliminary fights had already started. So people were already about to throw cans.
Ya andaban
No, Carlos Guzman. I'm going to leave here. I'm not going to stay here.
Oh my God, que Carlos, man. But you also had wrestling and boxing there, live boxing.
Andre the
Von
Giant?
Erichs. Yeah, Andre the Giant, the Von Erichs. How was it dealing with those wrestlers, man? Did you ever get to like...
Wow, they were easy.
See?
The Von Erichs, man. The Von Erichs, the father with the brothers. And the last time I booked them, it got canceled because I think Kerry Von Erich committed suicide.
Well, after one of the events there at the Villarreal, he ended up at your bar at South Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
And some friends of mine were there, and they said they were in the bathroom partying and everything. And Kerry Von Erich, and but did you ever know that Kerry was wrestling with a fake foot?
No.
Yeah, he had a fake. He had lost his foot in a motorcycle accident.
I saw the movie, man. It was amazing. Yeah. I never knew. Nobody said anything about his foot. I didn't know about it till I saw the movie.
Yeah, man. But it was so tragic what happened to that family. They were so talented and they had so much going for them. And
they were cool. The father, they were great people.
Well, you'd have good success with the wrestling aquí, ¿verdad? And
I had La Lucha Libre, pues there's una máscara, Blue Demon. I did La Lucha tour here in McAllen, Corpus, Laredo, El Paso, Houston, with the wrestlers. And what I got to see, the beating they get, we know what it's all about, right?
Yeah,
the wrestlers, but
predetermined outcomes, but the action's still pretty good.
Christ, man! I got to see firsthand their physical, not endurance, but the beatings that they actually take.
See,
And that reminds me, I was the first one ever in the history to bring before UFC. It was called IFC. And IFC at the beginning, I did a show at Pain Arena and then McAllen Civic Center and then in Corpus. At that time, at the early stages of cage fighting, you couldn't have a fist to hit. It had to be slaps, but everything else was good to go, right?
see,
And I remember in Corpus, after a gig, this guy was bald-headed, and he came back. He had like 10 bumps on his head. I thought, oh my God, this is that do they hurt? He said, no, this doesn't hurt. This hurts. You got to take me to the hospital. He had a broken bone was sticking out of his arm.
Oh man.
And that's UFC, IFC, broken bones. But you should have seen his head, man, because, it hit with the elbows and everything, even though you couldn't hit with your fist, but still, the IFC before the UFC, I think it's still in existence. I don't know if there or not.
Well, know, if I would want to start becoming a promoter right now, what would you tell me? What advice would you give me if I wanted to say I had money and I had capital and I want to, do a show? What would you warn me not to do, and what would you warn me to do?
This guy got experience under our wing, Jeremiah, and he became a pretty good working in the industry. And when he got relieved of that position, he asked me, I want you to partner me. I want to go into the business. I got all this money saved up and whatever. Said, look, you're my friend. Get that money and put it in real estate. Put it on stock. Do not go into this business. The only reason I'm successful, kind of still surviving, because of my history, that a lot of people in the industry know me, and I've associated myself with a couple of new partners that are been under me. We've been able to grow, but we also got that there didn't exist back then, like Live Nation, AEG, a bunch of agencies that actually control all the big major bands.
Yeah.
But I've been able to success. I got Ludacris coming up, Aaron Lewis, Midland. I just had Randy Rogers with La Mafia. I did Lil Wayne, 2 shows here in Corpus. I got Ludacris and he got him in South Carolina, Corpus.
Ringo Starr's coming.
Ringo Starr.
I'm going to be there. I want to see him.
Ringo Starr. So,
he's the last one of the last Beatles.
I'm able to survive with what I can, and I think I'm successful because of my history. I've been a guy like Felipe Esparza, Rob Snyder. Goes back to my association with those agents or agencies.
Yeah.
That
so long-term relationships you've built throughout your career that are still working for you.
Any wannabe promoters, which I've seen hundreds of them. The reason I was successful at the very beginning, also I had my venue. I had rentals to fall back on, concessions and whatever. And at that time era that I had the Villarreal wannabe promoters, just depending on doing a concert.
With the ticket sales alone.
Ticket sales, I've seen hundreds. They think it's real easy, it looks real. And it's still happening. Yeah.
And they're positive about it.
Yeah.
They feel good. They got that gut feeling. And then it's almost a show. And boy, you're like down like 600 tickets or 700 tickets to break even. And that's when the pressure comes in. And then it's like, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to lose. We got to move forward. Or we're going to keep doing this. So there's just so many. It's just like that moment right before the Creek concert when you guys were like deliberating whether they, what the hell were you going to do? You have to be ready for that if you're going to get involved in this business.
And you got to have the frequency, the
consistency
of shows. You lose one, you got to have 2, 3, 4 hours. But sometimes when you lose 3 or 4 in a row, and it's hard. But we've been, you just got to be smart also. And you got to know, the most important thing is you got to know the value of the artist. There are brokers that will sell you an act, but the broker gets his money, his percentage of how much money he sells you the act for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask Juan Los Tigres del Norte, it's $250,000, but that's not the value of them. Let's say maybe they are. I'm just X-Band.
Yeah,
X-Band. There were probably 100, and the broker says, "Well, I can get it for you for $250," and the promoter, this wannabe promoter says, "Okay, I'll pay the $250," because they don't know any better. And then you try to scale the pricing, because you got to scale it real high. It becomes not affordable, not realistic. So, and it's happened to a friend of ours here lately. Not of ours. Somebody came to me for some help. Some wannabe promoter just invested $250,000 on a couple of acts that now he doesn't know what to do because he got taken.
Yeah.
And it says, "Hey, you lost a deposit." That's
yeah.
money,
so maybe being a broker is a better job than just looking the bad, right? Golly, that's crazy.
Well, I'm also a broker or a producer. Like I produce shows for the last 12 years for FAR, the Hub Fest. I've been doing it for the McAllen Pump Fest off and on for many years. And we help out, my group and I help out some nonprofit organizations as brokers, but we do it for the right reason.
What? One last question: what artist did you never book that you would have loved to book?
It's on the book. Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy.
I had the band booked July, and it was
Black Sabbath though.
Yeah,
right?
Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath. I got the album cover, the whole 9 yards on the publicity. We were about to go on sale, but that spring break in March is when that college student,
Mark Kilroy,
was
murdered in Mexico,
and satanically, what they did.
Yeah.
And here's Black Sabbath coming in with the Outside Cross album and todo, whatever, So it got kind of scary. Just out of respect, I canceled the show.
And it was never. Ozzy, I think at that point was already solo. It might have been Black Sabbath without Ozzy. Dio wasn't with him. I think he had a singer called Tony Martin, Black Sabbath, but they had an album called The Eternal Idol, and it was kind of like, or it could have been Ian Gillan. That album was Born Again. It was like a demonic baby on the cover, but I could see where you would have not had them at all. But Ozzy was, he had left Black Sabbath in 79, 80, somewhere around there. But he's never been here to the Rio Grande Valley. Never.
No.
Iron Maiden's been here. I was there at the show with Judas Priest, but it was their first tour with their first singer. But never again after they got their new singer and became Number of the Beast and stuff like that. Metallica played here. They had Master of Puppets. And then they never came back after that Black album. But
and it's their interview at the Via Real.
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
And I got all the autograph of Metallica there on my wall with
Cliff Burton.
Cliff Burton signed it.
It was one of his last shows here. Because he died a little after.
3 months later in Europe.
Yeah, man.
After he played the Via Real.
Crazy. NANO, I appreciate you, man.
I am thankful. A lot of the very first band group, considered, even though there were the Jackson Fives and what, but the boys band, it's considered now like NSYNC and
New Kids on the Block.
New Kids on the Block. I think I brought the very first boy band to the McAllen High School Stadium, and I sold it out menudo.
Orale. Con Ricky
1983.
Wow.
I brought down the hottest international singer in the world. I can't believe I had, at that time, was Julio Iglesias. I couldn't bring him to Villarreal, too small, so I booked the Pan American Fieldhouse. So I did Julio Iglesias there at his peak. And then, of course, I did him later at the Hemisphere in San Antonio, at the Ola Arena in Corpus Christi. The Coliseum doesn't exist anymore. And so big names that I was able to bring in for the first time. I'm kind of proud of my history.
Yeah, you've had quite a history, man. You have a museum here, and I appreciate you letting us come in and check it out.
Let me just finish up. We didn't finish about how to get my book.
Let's do it.
If you want the book, just email me to Bookem NANO. That's BOOKEM, NANO, NANO, Bookem NANO. I book concerts. NANO is my nickname, Bookem NANO.
And it was also a play from the Hawaii Five-0.
Yeah.
But it's Bookem Dano.
Bookem Dano.
But this is Bookem Nano.
Well, that's where my employees all of a sudden brought me a T-shirt and jacket. They went on their own and put Bookem Nano.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I said, wow, great. from there on, you know, it's been booking.
Hawaii 5-0 was an old 70s show about detectives in Hawaii.
Hawaii
and
5-0.
the main guy would say, book him.
At the end.
At the end.
very
It
end,
was always when they caught the criminal. And then when I saw book him Nano, I was like, perfect, man. It fit perfectly.
Email me, bookemnano@yahoo.com, and send
Get
me your phone number and address, and email me, and I'll contact you back and make arrangements to get you the book.
Sure. We'll put all the information on the description in the bottom. So if any of you are interested in, getting the book, just look at the description and there's the information. You get a hold of Nano, and I highly recommend you get it because this is a treasure. It's a treasure, man. You saw the opening of it. It's just amazing, and this guy's just been an amazing
One more
history.
sales pitch. JR wrote a book called Lettuce, like tomato and lettuce, lettuce. There's a story behind, not let us. Lettuce, there's a story behind it. But anyway, it's Let Us Entertain You, and it's his personal experiences, scenes or stories that happen behind the scenes.
Yeah.
That one's on Amazon, and it's one of the best sellers, especially the, how do you call it, voice book? The audiobook. And it's like $10 or something.
Let's do it.
But it's we've gotten so fantastic reviews. Let Us Entertain You on Amazon.
We'll put that info in the description as well. So be sure to get your books and put them in your collection and have a piece of history. Rio Grande Valley history, 956. One of the biggest promoters still standing and still kicking ass. Nano Ramirez, muchas gracias, Nano. I appreciate you, man.
Thank you, Rock.
And I love you.
Hey, by the way, the very first show we ever did together, I was wearing this cap.
Whiskey D, baby.
This cap, man.
Oh!
I still have it. I still wear it.
Hey, we're coming back. We got some good music coming up, man.